Good afternoon, everybody. It'll be just a quick meeting, I hope. And so I will officially call this meeting, and I refrain from saying the last meeting, considering how it is at this time of session, but I will call one of the final meetings, hopefully, or if not the final, committee meetings of the Health Committee for Public Health is officially open, and we have a substitute to House Senate Bill 198, and I think Representative Hawkins, Chairman Hawkins, is presenting. Everybody let me make sure everybody's got it and got their, okay, and this is a substitution. This bill has been, the original bill was gutted, and so this is new. So, with everybody.
I wouldn't call it gutted. We replaced it with something better. How's that?
You're right. Gutted sounds like,
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chairman. As we all know, our independent pharmacists have been suffering since the new contract let in this past January. They're receiving payments a fraction of what the large chain pharmacies are receiving. It's being negotiated again with DCH and CVS Caremark. I will say this, and I've been working with Russell Carlson and Emily and Brandy, DCH, and I'm very impressed with what they're doing. They're working really hard to come up with some solutions. In fact, I just got about 4 or 5 more on my phone right before we walked in. But what this bill does is, this is an amendment I put on 455, and as you can see, the action words are 10 through 21. I won't read them. I'm sure that you've already seen them. But this is in efforts to help our independent pharmacists, and something that hopefully we can work through with DCH and the PBMs and get it done sooner than later, maybe within hopefully a few weeks. That's the bill.
Questions from the committee? I tell you. Okay. Representative Al, you got a question?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
No, I wonder, you want to share that with us, or we didn't answer?
No, I was just asking the chairman if this was the same bill we passed already earlier this session, and we confirmed that it was.
Yeah. We passed 455 in Health Committee, my committee, and this was an amendment I put into 455. That was taken out, and the step therapy was put in. That's what I had on the floor this morning.
Okay. All right. Okay, Representative Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I think we do need to make some corrections. I know we do not know and are not privy to the negotiations, but are they going to reimburse the private pharmacies the same amount? And all they're going to do is increase our payment by the state by these 939% or 54. I think we need to do this. It's not fair what's being done now, but I think we need to have a look behind the curtain. And I would think at some point in time we may need to have a committee put together to special look at these things more in depth. Thank you.
Representative Hawkins, you want to speak to that?
I would be willing to do that for sure. I'm just looking for something that can help them now, and this has the potential to do that if they can work it out. DCH and
it is very
second
needed.
floor.
I agree with that, but Madam Chair, you may want to have a look at that because it is pretty involved.
Okay.
Thank you.
Representative Lott, do you have a question about the bill? Or are you going to correct something I should have done in the very beginning? We have a new member. And so to the committee, Gary Richardson, welcome to, I think, the most interesting committee. I mean, Chairman Hawkins may disagree with me. We go back and forth and we always share. So, but we're glad to have you. Welcome to the legislature. They've sort of put you in when it's a time of learning by fire or something into the election. But thank you for working hard to be elected, especially since you have to start all over again right now and run again. So we're glad to have you. Okay, Representative Lott, you had a question.
I don't have a question.
Oh,
but
sorry.
at the appropriate time, you can follow.
Okay, all right. So, Representative Richardson, did you have a question? Nope, okay. All right. We'll give Representative Anulowicz, can you sit down and unbackpack quick enough to look at this? It's a substitution that we've taken out and inserted another bill.
Oh, from,
Okay, and it's so that we're trying to get where they pay the same amount to the pharmacist. If they pay CVS one amount, then they pay the independent pharmacist the same amount. Okay,
Quick question, Madam Chair.
okay. What's your question?
I guess I was trying to get clarity. Do these even work? Okay. Clarity from my colleague here, Representative Taylor. I think you were saying that you would like to see us, were you saying pump? Don't let me put words in your mouth now. Tell me exactly what you were saying in regards to this.
I do think that it is something that this committee or someone in the legislature needs to look at these negotiations and these contracts to know exactly what the state is signing up for. What are we reimbursing? And I truly would like to know why there's such a discrepancy from what they're reimbursing one drugstore to another. I just feel like that's something we need to know.
So if it was up to you, we wouldn't pass this today?
No,
We
I would pass this right now.
Okay.
But I would say we need to look in depth. It's not fair what's happening to our local pharmacies right now. And I think that at some point in time, it's our responsibility as the legislature to look at this and find out why there is such discrepancy. Thank you.
And these were negotiated rates
Yes.
with the state, and the state agreed to them? Is this mainly?
DCH didn't know about these rates. They have a contract that's more of a blind contract, so that, no, DCH didn't know this was happening until we brought it to their attention. I mean, they do a very good job. I tell you, I've been on them for years, but I got to tell you, I've been working with them on this, and I've been impressed. They're working very hard. They got a lot on their plate over there, and for them to know what the pharmacy's getting paid is just, it's not possible. It's like them, reading a phone book. It's just.
So what you're saying is, I mean, I understand about the department, and they do have a lot on their plate.
Yeah.
Okay, but what you're saying that just some rogue group, CVS or whoever decided to do it, decided that they could pay one person.
Look around, see who's in here.
Each one is a separate negotiation, so.
Right. I mean,
Each PBM will negotiate with each pharmacy. They give different contracts to different vendors, just like anybody in the business, you do contract negotiations. And they're veiled from the purchaser. When I negotiate a contract, I don't get to see individual contracts that they've made with pharmacies or doctors or whatever the contracts are. But at some point in time, because it is the state and it's public money, I feel like it is something that we need to be a little bit closer to and have a little bit more information.
okay.
Right.
So that it's a
State Health
PBM.
Benefit only has CVS Caremark as a PBM. That's the only one we've got. And so that's who's driving this issue.
In paying the different rates.
Yeah, that's right.
They went to each drugstore and negotiated and said, for this type or this class of drug, I'll reimburse you this rate. But the drugstore doesn't know what they agreed to pay their own CVS stores or the other big box stores. And again, part of that is volume. If you are a big box, you're going to do 10 times the volume as the little store. So again, there's a lot that goes into these negotiations.
You're telling me that we negotiated with every drugstore?
No, we do not.
I was gonna say.
No, the PBM does. The
Okay, the
PBM
PBM goes
to
to
each
every
one.
one?
Right, and the state does not have privy to every contract that the PBM made with every drugstore. We don't see those, and that's really not, that's why it's very confusing and very in-depth, and that's why it's something not easy to talk about here at this forum.
Is there anybody in the audience, since we're discussing this, that is representing the other side of which we seem to be on, would like to come forth and say something? Identify yourself. Who? Oh, I hadn't forgotten. I just wanted to know right then when we were talking about that. Okay, so nobody's going to own up that they represent. Okay, Jesse? Wherever you want to go and you think you're safe.
Jesse.
And you do realize how quickly he came when I called. Jesse was my intern several years ago. I taught him
It's
well.
more than several, I think.
Yeah, so, okay.
Jesse Weathington with Georgia Association of Health Plans. Again, we don't have a particular perspective on this language or concept, but kind of to answer the question, so as Chair Lady Taylor is describing, they will negotiate with a pharmacy or group of pharmacies, it kind of is blind to the purchaser in this instance. And those are kind of negotiated based on market conditions in the communities where they're at and volume and all sorts of factors where, you would have to say it depends on kind of what it shakes out to be.
Okay, sort of goes back to how the insurance negotiate with every hospital, and
Or system.
well, of course, the big systems, but in the smaller hospitals, and they come up with such a variance in the rate that they are paid, and therefore how much the hospitals can charge.
Well, again, it depends entirely on the community. If there's another hospital anywhere nearby, kind of the size of the pool and the acuity of the patients in the pool.
Okay, thank you. Anybody with questions? And I'm coming back to you, Teddy. You want to ask? Jesse?
I have a few questions. Well, maybe he can answer them. I don't know.
Maybe
Okay, I
answer.
represent, okay,
But
Representative Reed,
anybody
go
in the room
ahead.
who would like to answer them, but I remember the day that we first heard about this Bell's Pharmacy on the floor. I think a member brought this information forward, and it reminded me of my pharmacy where I grew up in Wilkinson County in Gordon. Very small, family-owned. That family has served the community for a long time, and when I saw this and saw the comparison, I have to admit I was slightly outraged. I just couldn't believe that a discrepancy this large could exist within the issuance of the same drug. Just like having two car lots, one selling the car for $5 and the other one selling the car for $500, but it's the same car made by the same people, same product. Just didn't make sense. When we look at this bill here, I think it's line 14, when it says the average reimbursement. Do you have any, or anyone here, or Mr. Chairman, do you have knowledge of how this average will be determined and when it will be paid out? I know it said average of the same day, but are we averaging every major pharmacy in the state? Like, how are we reaching this number?
It'd be averaged by drug payout,
Okay.
not with the pharmacy. For all pharmacies will be on the same payment schedule
Okay.
for each drug,
All right. And so we feel
like it
that-
used to be.
we feel that the average will be justified. Should we not look at 60% of what we're paying the large pharmacies? Why average? Why, to me, that's kind of like the 50% point.
Sort of like a free market that we lost a long time ago. I mean, the small-time pharmacist, small city, small-town pharmacy is paying for the same price or paying more than the big box stores for the drug to get it on the shelf.
Right.
And then they're getting paid less. And not only that, but they're serving the patient. I mean, I go to a small pharmacy, and they'll sit and talk about what the drug is. And I know what the drugs are, but I've heard them talk to other people about what the drug's about. And there's value there. And they coach our kids. We go to church with them. These are our community members. And I'm going to stand up for our community folks.
And see, to me, they're more than just small pharmacies. They're small businesses.
Yeah.
They're the backbones of many of these small towns
Yep.
and rural areas where the large companies won't come because it's not profitable for them to be there. But these small companies will sacrifice,
Yep.
and they take the hit like other small businesses on what we used to call Main Street back in the day,
Yep.
when you had the small businesses that head up the area. And I just want to make sure that with this legislation, since we're taking this step, that average is going to be sufficient. Because to me, when you say average, that means there are some pharmacies out there that are still getting paid more because you have that sliding scale. So what would the average be? So someone is going to be, at some point, will be paid more, and I just want to make sure that's sufficient. I'm with you that we
Yeah.
of course we need to protect them.
I don't know if they were being paid the same amount last year before, but the issue has come to a head this year when their payments went down so far, the independent pharmacists. And I just want them to be able to stay in business. We're not asking for anything more. We're just asking for fairness. That's it. And it still may not be what the big box stores.
Well, can we commit?
CVS is the PBM, and CVS has its own drugstores.
Can we commit to at least a year from now, looking at this legislation as we've presented it, hopefully it will pass, and determining whether an average is even enough? Because we may need to take it a little higher than that. And I would just like, and maybe that's part of the study that Rep. Taylor was talking about as well. But if we're going to help them, I want to make sure we're actually helping them and not putting a temporary Band-Aid on and saying, okay, well, we did something that should be fine.
Yeah.
I want to make sure our help goes far enough.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I think the answer is going to be with DCH and how they're handling it. I can tell you Russell Carlson's been working on this and his whole team, and they've been having meetings, night meetings, and they understand the problem, so.
Well, since I have the chairman's privilege of being able to have a study committee without it, running through the legislative process, Darlene, are you willing to serve? And Teddy, are you willing
Oh, absolutely.
to serve on one? If we, do you have primary opposition?
No.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so if we meet fairly soon after the primary's over, that and before people are really into starting on the next phase, okay, you'd be willing to?
I think that's great.
Okay. Pardon? And you'll serve? Okay. Representative Stoner. Okay.
And
Representative Stoner, you are recognized for a question.
Thank you, ma'am. Happy to see this bill. Actually, even though I live in Metro Atlanta, I actually choose to go to an independent pharmacist. I mean, I have lots of choices. And to your point that Chairman Hawkins was saying and other folks are saying is because I want the personal attention. It doesn't hurt they also still have a charge account and everything too.
Yeah.
But the
Right.
yeah, we're in that too. But the point I was going to make is my wife serves on the State Health Benefit Plan Advisory Board, representing teachers. And this is not a comment on Russell because I know he's just kind of gotten there in last year. The new commissioner. But this issue has been raised by that board numerous times about PBMs. And for whatever reason, no one's had any interest in discussing it. So I'm just letting that be known because I can tell you my wife tells me about it regularly. And so part of the reason I would like to serve on this.
Okay, you've got it.
So thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. And next is Representative Anulowicz. Terry, go ahead.
Thank you. I think it's good that we're doing something with this language because I believe it was supposed to have been in something earlier today, as has been discussed, and now we're going to. I think this is important. I did want to be clear because I know that there are probably a lot of folks at home watching thinking this is still the original version of SB 198. And I know we've gotten lots of emails about that, and just make sure folks know that I'm very optimistic that we'll still find a way to get that Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Innovation Commission going through here, because I think that is very important. I think we can't overlook that while we're trying to still do something very good here.
Yeah.
I mean, and I understand. I mean, this is the time when bills do get substituted for other things of going a completely different direction. Sorry, with my cold, I also have a little bit of brain fog, apparently. But I will say on the original Bill to 198, no one cares more than me, I don't think, about the disabled individuals in our state, and that we do have a new commissioner in that area also who is working hard to do some new and innovative ideas. And there was a feeling that we should let him have some time to see if those ideas really come to fruition, and before we put another meeting on top of him, another group of people to answer to. But certainly, if that doesn't happen, I'll be interested in revisiting the issue right away. So if we do have people from that group of advocates that are concerned and parents, it's just that it's my understanding lots of new things are coming our way. And let's let them, see if we can get them going.
Oh, can I speak to that for just a second?
Yes.
Yeah. I did not intend to take 198 language away.
No.
I support that too. I have
Right.
talked to Commissioner Tanner, and they're doing something similar. And just like Chairwoman Cooper said, giving him a chance to get out there. But he's got all these same people working with him on his commission. They're all going down the same road. So we're going to see some good things out of Commissioner Tanner on that very subject. Yeah.
That's, okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Representative Chokas.
At the appropriate time, ma'am.
Okay. Representative Lott.
I second that.
Okay. We got a second. Well, then we back to Representative Reese.
I'm second Lot's original motion.
All right.
You
I don't
second
have
that
any other-
emotion?
I don't, wait a minute. Are we lighting up again? Oh, it's your board. We've got a new system. Okay, there's no more. If there's no more questions from committee, I'll ask once again, is there someone in the audience that would like to speak on this issue? Did you want to say something? Come on. No, please come and identify yourself. I'm sorry. Greg didn't mean to.
No worries, and thank you, Chair Cooper. I'm with American Pharmacy Cooperative, and we have approximately 1,600 independent pharmacies, with Georgia being one of our biggest states. And we are just appreciative of Chairman Hawkins' work on this and appreciative of the committees, and we're certainly in support of the amendment. I would note, Representative Reese, with regard to your question, just bringing independent pharmacies up to the average would make a massive difference on a lot of these really high volume generics. We've got, and this is probably the most extreme example, but we picked about 15 of the most common generic drugs that our members are dispensing. And just bringing it up to the average on atorvastatin would take independent pharmacies from $1.90 to $46. And so there are chain pharmacies getting reimbursed as high as $89 for that drug. But just bringing community pharmacy up to the average would make a massive difference, and we believe help keep doors open. We've lost 5 independent pharmacies in the state of Georgia since February 1st. And so it's a serious issue, and state health benefit plan can be a really significant portion of their business. And so we are appreciative. The only other point I would make that's interesting is, to the extent that typically independent pharmacies negotiate either directly or through PSAOs, which are contracting entities with PBMs, one may think that different pharmacies would have different rates, but what we're seeing here with CVS, which again is one of the largest companies on earth in the Fortune 10, what we're finding in our data is that every independent pharmacy across the state, no matter where they are in the state, whether they're in a rural area, whether they're in a metropolitan area, no matter who they're contracting, whether they're contracting directly or through a third-party contracting entity, all of these reimbursement rates are the same based on the data that we're seeing. So a community pharmacy getting reimbursed $1.90 for atorvastatin, that's what that pharmacy in Tate, Georgia, that closed, only independent in the town, that's what they were getting reimbursed. That's what independent pharmacies in Atlanta are getting reimbursed, mid-Georgia and South Georgia. And so, we believe it speaks to obviously massive contracting disparities, and that in essence, if it's the same rate at every pharmacy throughout the state, there is no negotiation taking place. And so just grateful for the work of this committee, and also so grateful for the suggestion on a study committee. So
Right,
thank you.
and you will be available with your travels to make sure you're here
1,000%.
when we get.
Yes, Madam
And
Chair.
I have a question. I mean, I remember when the independent pharmacies came and, said they were struggling. And it seems like the whole issue surrounding it was the clawbacks. That even though they were doing everything they were supposed to,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
explain the clawbacks.
Yeah,
we
so
have a new member.
clawbacks are a big issue, and it's something that this body has done a lot of work on, really trying to prohibit it. We used to see a lot of clawbacks in Medicare Part D, which, that arguably there's only so much that the state can do there.
Explain a clawback.
There's sort of two kinds of clawbacks. One is acute at the point of sale, and so you have a patient walk in, let's say they pay a $10 copay, and they'll see a -5 reimbursement. So what happens is the patient pays 10, the pharmacy gets 5, and the PBM claws $5 back at the point of sale. In essence, I would say that's most acute for the patient. The patient just overpaid for their drug by $5 at the point of sale. They're getting a little more sophisticated. So what we see is these clawbacks happening more like 4, 6, and 12 months after. So a pharmacy may get reimbursed something. Let's say that they're reimbursed $50 for a drug at the point of sale, but then 6 months, 12 months later, there's a percentage of that is clawed back. And we believe that Georgia law does prohibit it, but as we're looking into this issue, we're seeing effective rate pricing happening in the state health benefit plan still today, according to some of my members. So that's something that we're also looking at.
All right, I do have a pretty good memory, but I don't remember, why did we not know about this discrepancy, or why hasn't it come forward sooner? I don't remember hearing about this kind of issue.
quiet.
Pardon?
I think the contracts have always been very quiet. There's probably something in the contracts that you're not supposed to talk about it. They're confidential. You're not supposed to be out there talking about what your contract is. So they're kind of behind the 8 ball. You
Okay,
could
got
lose
it.
your contract. I don't know all the negotiations. I'm not in that business, but I know those kind of things happen.
Okay, thank you. Representative Richardson.
So in my mind, we're paying too much on the top end. If there's an average and you can get there, what we need to be dealing with, the overcharge is what we need to be dealing with somehow.
That would be the PBMs, and we've tried to take them on. We have taken them on. Have we made some progress with them, Greg?
Yeah, I think there certainly is some progress. And, the House bill that you all passed, which is in the Senate now, which we understand is going to have some changes to it, potentially today. But what that sought to do is bring an index-based pricing so that no matter where a patient goes, to your point, they're paying the same. What we found looking at this data, and we looked in Tate, Georgia, which is really close to Jasper, and again, only independent pharmacy in that district. And what we found is a patient that walked into Tate Pharmacy was paying $1.90 for a drug. If they went 2 miles up the road, $89 for a drug. If they went half a mile from there, maybe about 40 or 50 for a drug. And so what you have is you've got teachers, you've got state employees who may not know, and they may be paying way more for a drug than they should. And we believe ultimately index-based pricing is going to increase transparency and give a consistent pricing experience for state employees while ultimately paying pharmacies fairly, with the ceiling, but something fair that can keep in business. So thank you for the question.
Well, this certainly explains why supposedly the app that you go to and says before you go to a certain pharmacy, use this app to tell you what the pharmacies in your area are charging and how CVS can be charging one price and somebody else is charging another price and so forth. The problem with that is if the best price is clear across town or in Atlanta, a 5-mile drive that's going to take you 30 minutes to get there, or you love your pharmacist and want to go to that, I think people probably haven't used that app as much as they could. Oh, okay, Taddy, how about the last
Yes,
one?
ma'am,
You get the last.
Madam Chair, that's why I live in rural Georgia. I don't want to spend 30 minutes driving 5 miles. But
Okay.
I have a question about this clawback thing. You introduced a concept that I had not heard of before. And so just to go back with your original example, you said the drug may be listed as $10. The customer pays $10. $5 goes to the pharmacy, and you say $5 is given right back to the customer?
The $5 is clawed back at the point of sale, and it goes back to the pharmacy benefit manager.
So the customer's still paying $10.
Yeah, and from our perspective, and again, the intention was several years ago that this practice would have been prohibited. We do still see it from time to time in Georgia, but our perspective on that is ultimately the patient is walking in with an insurance card, and by God, they think that insurance card is going to save them money, right? They think, hey, I got insurance. They put it down. They pay a $10 copay. We've seen it as high as $50 copay. And what happens is the pharmacy benefit manager will at times claw that money back. So again, if it's a $10 copay, we see a lot of $5 clawbacks. Within the last few months, we've seen as high as $20 clawbacks. So $20 of that patient's copay is going back to the pharmacy benefit manager. And it is a practice that happens in commercial plans. It's a practice that happens in
Is that
some
because
state
of the
plans
contracts that they've signed that allows that to happen?
I don't know that I have a good answer for that, right? I don't think so. I think it's, again, largely these are take it or leave it contracts. And what happens is every year the pharmacy benefits managers update those contract terms via what are called provider manuals. And so there's not any negotiation. They can sort of one way change it. But really, I've reviewed plenty of provider manuals over the years. I don't see any language that really speaks to copay clawback. But what you get is very subtle contract language that may say, hey, pharmacy, you agree to administer and adjudicate the claim pursuant to the instructions that we give you at the point of sale. And so they're contractually bound to charge a patient whatever the price the PBM sets at the counter. And so if it says $10 copay, the pharmacy charges a $10 copay. But what the pharmacies see sometimes is $10 copay, but it'll show -5, which means the PBM is taking $5 of that $10 that the patient is paying. And so in that circumstance, when a patient's in their deductible phase, when PBMs are at their best, meaning their worst, but they're most profitable for them, they're paying nothing out of pocket. And they're actually making money from the patient and the pharmacy. So, they're there to administer claims, but that insurance has cost that patient $5 in the example. And if you're interested, we can get you actual examples of it that have happened fairly recently. We have some
that
recent
would be great.
examples.
I want to understand this more. I think that this, if we're going to discuss it more, I need to understand this.
Discuss it more in the
Okay.
study committee. There's certainly a lot to be.
No, not tonight.
The PBMs are basically, they're not exactly our friends. So pardon? Teddy, has that ever kept me from saying what I think is the truth? I come from Texas. In Texas, we just tell it like it is. And that's the only way I know how to do it. So
For clarity purposes, though, I'm sorry to interrupt, I would want to make clear, I've not seen copay clawbacks in the state health benefit plan. And I know that's what we're talking about here today, so I did just want to clarify that point.
okay. But of course, in the end, if they do have clawbacks anywhere, especially if anything that occurs like that or would occur in the state benefit plan, then it would cost the state a lot of extra money.
Yeah, I think conceivably, but again, we're not seeing it. We're not seeing it acutely at the point of sale. Now, we have had members say that they're seeing it via effective rate pricing months later. That's something that we want to dig into and look into because obviously that would be very serious if that is occurring. But I've not seen any examples of that immediate $5, $10, $20 at the counter clawback that we were talking about.
Okay. All right. I don't see any other questions on the board. Thank you to the committee because I think it was good, and we certainly have things that shows that we have things to discuss. And we've let our new rep get a little bit of what goes on in the committee in a very small way. So I sort of did that for you so that your first committee would just not in and out to vote, and you think it's going to be that way. Anybody else from the audience? Nobody else wants to come up and try to put something out? Okay, I've had a motion. You ready? Go ahead, Chokus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that SB 198 LC 339725S received a due pass designation.
The substitute.
S.
The
Yes,
substitute. Yeah. Oh, as you shortened it. Okay. All right, Representative Lott.
We'd like to second that.
Okay, we have a co-second, okay, from Representative Lott and Teddy. And I'm sorry, Teddy, because I like the name Teddy, I don't even remember your last name. Reese. I'm sorry, Teddy. I do like I happen to be partial to that. You know, my husband was a bariatrician. He didn't treat bears, but it sounds like bears. And we have a big bear collection, and I live in Bear Manor, so Teddy goes along with that. Okay, a little information about me. Anyway, okay, I have a motion due pass and a second. Any other discussion from the committee? Okay.
I'm from New Orleans. We like drinking games.
You like what?
Drinking games.
Oh. Okay.
So I suggest the committee, we can do a drinking game. Every time Teddy Reese moves to pass a bill, we drink. Second, we drink 2 drinks. We'd have more fun in this committee if we do this drinking game.
Well,
I move. No, I've been on the committee with her. You have far exceeded her.
okay, I'm getting a little slappy. I don't know that I can go along with that. I don't drink. Not that I'm against moderate drinking as long as you don't get drunk. But I don't drink because I don't like the way it tastes, and I would have to have a sweet every time you did that, and that certainly would not be good. I wouldn't be good for promoting good health as I move toward diabetes. So we'll have to come up with another way to handle that. Okay, everyone in the favor of the passage to the substitute to Senate Bill 198, say aye.
Aye.
Everyone opposed, say no. Okay, the ayes have it. Once again, welcome to our new member, and Representative Richardson. And we are now officially, the meeting is adjourned.